Hi everyone, how you all doing? I'm in discussion at the moment with a couple of scholars, a couple of biblical historians, and we're going through Revelation 7. We've got a slight difference of an opinion. We're not falling out or anything like that. There's no need for that. We're sharing a few ideas. I believe one thing, they believe another, that kind of thing. So I thought what I'd do is I'd share it with you, what our discussion is all about. So my argument is from verse 1 of Revelation 7. I'm going to read some of it and I'm going to try and answer a bit as well at the same time. So after this, I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth. I'll stop there on the first sentence. So I think that this is the Apostle John's vision of an earthly event. Because the angels were stood on the four corners of the earth. And then what did they do next? They hold tight the four winds of the earth. So they're holding something on the earth. They're holding the four winds of the earth. So John's vision, in my opinion, I don't know about anybody else's, is something that he sees that is an earthly event. And if we just, right, I've got it attached here. If we go to 4, after the angels that are holding the winds back and everything else, and they're positioned at the four corners of the earth, verse 4 is the sealing of the 144,000. And it goes into all the tribes, and you get your 144,000. So up to now, the Apostle John is seeing this vision on earth. He's not associating this vision in the heavenly realm. Well, it can't be, can it? Because verse 1 tells us that the four angels basically are positioned at the four corners of the earth and holding back the winds of the earth. So this has to be an earthly event. And so the sealing of the 144,000 is something that has to happen on the earth, not in the heavens. So once the number of the 144,000 is complete and sealed, and no more can be added to it because, it's sealed. It's probably got, the sovereign Lord's seal of approval, and no more can be added to it. He's happy with that number. At that point there, Jones has another vision. But does he see the great crowd on earth, or does he see them in heaven? Now, a lot of people are saying, well, Martin, it's so obvious that this must be the great crowd in heaven. Not really. It's not as obvious as you think. I'll tell you why. In the last days, the scriptures say there's going to be a sign in the sun, moon, and stars. What do you think that sign could be? How about that sign being that we see a heavenly judicial process taking place? And we see all the thrones, maybe in the sky, I don't know. You might think this is outlandish. I don't. But we know that the separator of the sheep and goats has got to take place, and that takes place on earth during the tribulation period. We know that there's going to be a sign in the sun, moon, and the stars that every earthly eye will identify with something from the heavens or celestial. Let's say that Revelation 7 is something that occurs on earth. This changes the whole dynamics now. If we don't think now that this is a vision of the heavens, then it makes pure and perfect sense that the great crowd that passed through the Great Tribulation are in fact the ones that remain on the earth and do not go to the heavens because they are not of the same ilk. They're not first fruits, they're not anointed, and they will not go to the heavens because their role is earthly. And if we look at verse 14, it says, "So right away I said to him, 'My Lord, you are the one that knows.' And he said to me, 'These are the ones that come out of the great tribulation, and they have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb.'" So the argument is with the other ones that are talking to me is they pass through the great tribulation, the great crowd, and then they go to heaven. But they don't. They don't, because that would make a mockery of the 1,000-year reign. The ones that are in the heavenly realm will only be the joint heirs of Christ. These will be the ones whose spirit bear witness with God's spirit. So I think that the Apostle John and his vision here is a vision of what takes place on the earth, not in the heavens. And the biggest clue you get is verse 1, that the angels are carrying out earthly events, only things that you can associate with things that occur on the earth, not in the heavens. We don't even know if there's any wind in the heavens, but it talks about them holding back the winds of the earth. It doesn't talk about them holding back the winds of the heavens, does it? No, because this vision that John had, they want you to be absolutely clear about one thing, and that is it starts with an earthly event. Now, if you want to bolster your argument the other way, you would have to find me where the Bible makes a separation between what is taking place on the earth at that time with John's vision, and at what point does he then refer to the vision of the heavens. I'm now going to put my head on a chopping block and say that John's whole chapter here is all going to take place on earth, all of it. Another little argument for you is verse 13. In response, one of the elders said to me, "These are the ones who are dressed in white robes." Another earthly event, not a celestial event. Elders is an earthly term. They don't use elders. They don't have elders in the heavens. It's an earthly term. So this again, the whole chapter is basically the Apostle John only having an earthly vision, not a heavenly vision. But people say, well, Martin, read 15. I will. That is why they are before the throne of God, and they are rendering him sacred service day and night in his temple, and the one seated on the throne will spread his tent over them, and they will hunger no more or thirst any more. So a lot of people are now saying, oh, but they're before the throne of God. Well, they can still be before the throne of God if there's a sign in the sun, moon, and stars during the last days. Now, do you understand? The sign in the sun, moon, and stars is something that all earthly eyes will see. So they can be before the throne of God if that vision of what John was trying to convey to people while he was being inspired to write Revelation, then they can certainly, every earthly eye can certainly associate with what they see here with a celestial event that is taking place on the earth, a judicial process, maybe just before the separating of the sheep and goats, the sealing of the anointed, and then the identification of the great crowd. So if someone wants to throw another argument at me, I welcome it, obviously. They would have to prove to me at what point in Revelation 7 we move from John's vision of the earth to John's vision of the heavens. And if they do that, then I'll be quite happy. But if they don't, I'm going to put the whole chapter down to something that only occurs on the earth. Thanks.